Aloha, everyone. Man, Hawaii is burning. And there
It's
is,
hot.
yeah, if the smoke clouds weren't enough, this whole thing is shrouded in conspiracy. I'm getting all kinds of different opinions of how it started, who might be involved, what their motives might be. Everything's up in the air. No one really knows who to trust, what to believe. But there are several different stories that have come out about the origin of this thing.
Mm.
So, how did you feel when you first saw that it was on the news?
So when it first happened, they claimed, high winds because there was a Hurricane Hillary, ironically, brewing towards
There's a lot
California.
of things that are too
Right.
comical in this whole
But
thing.
so, and then, knocked over a power line, started a fire. And then they said because of the winds, blew embers, and started a
Right, the
fire.
sparks, yeah.
Oh, okay. So at that moment, I'm like, oh shit, okay. And I didn't think anything of it. I was thinking of like, not saying it's good or bad, but just like how California fires were.
Mm.
Okay, whatever. Like, I'm not like whatever, but I'm just like, okay. So then after a couple days, and this was in the beginning, and it's still true to this day, there wasn't much footage from news organizations. Okay?
Okay.
Like, there really wasn't. And the only video footage or pictures you could get were from the actual citizens
Right, I saw a
in
lot of
Hawaii.
stuff on social media immediately just because everybody's just
Right.
posting it and
Right.
reposting it.
So I saw this one where they were driving in their vehicles and he was just filming through the neighborhoods. And when I saw the destruction of these people's neighborhoods, I'm like, this is not a fire. This is not a typical fire. Because looking at it, looked like a scene out of like, a war in Afghan or a
Everything
bombing
was burned out,
or a
yeah.
bombing. But
It was
it
weird.
wasn't just burnt. It was like, it's just hard to describe. Like cars were just flat out melted. Like hardly any buildings. It was just rubble. And I'm like, all this from a pole line? I'm like, something's not right.
Mm.
So that was my initial feelings from it. And now, obviously, I think we're 15 days?
It started on
15
August
days.
8th.
I'm going to say 14, 15 days out. Now I really have different opinions. So, but for you, when you first read it, when you first heard of it,
Well, first thing I saw was like the quick thumbnail of a reel on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, and I'm like, and it's like Hawaii fires, and I'm immediate thought just glancing at it, I'm like, oh, maybe a volcano erupted or something. So I watch it, and it's like saying it's a wildfire, and I'm automatically in distrust immediately. There's wildfires all of a sudden all over Canada, going into the areas of New England, all the smoke and everything like that, billowing up about
which
that.
we stopped talking about too.
We just glossed over that. And now all of a sudden there's a fire here. There's fires in British Columbia.
Ooh.
There's a lot of footage of that looks really intense. It looks like the Maui fires. So automatically I'm like, this is weird, because think about this year. All these trains derailing all of a sudden, then all of these UFO sightings all of a sudden, then all the indictments all of a sudden. Now it's all these wildfires all of a sudden. It's all really weird. But let's start with the initial report that it was a down power line. Right? Let's just say that it's that, okay? So Hawaiian Electric Industries, HECO, purchased Maui Electric Company in 1968. So they're the ones that are in charge of this whole thing. Okay.
They're the only ones.
Right. If you look at their website, too, this is interesting. And all the information that I got this from has now been scrubbed from the internet, which I thought was weird as well.
Huh.
This info...
Like Hillary scrubs emails?
Right. The videos got taken down and the explanation, but luckily for us, I wrote it down. Hawaiian Electric's website has an entire section dedicated to tree trimming safety. How ironic. Because it could be a potential fire hazard. How about that? And it's quoted to say, in windy weather, unattached tree limbs can be blown onto the power lines, creating problems. I'd say that this is a pretty big problem right now. When working on the trees that are near power lines, a 10-foot minimum clearance from the lines is required for safety purposes. We are legally required to maintain our facilities and equipment, i.e., their power lines. They also have a vegetation management program which states that they regularly inspect trees growing near power lines and contact certified vegetation management crews to trim trees growing into power lines along roadways throughout the island. We will also always include a reasonable margin of safety above the absolute minimum clearance requirements, which, as we remember, are 10 feet. Interesting to note, though, about Hawaiian Electric Industries are their investors. I know I did a deep dive during the OceanGate thing when we were talking about, they're starting a Ukraine rebuilding bank while that news was going on to probably distract us from. So our favorite friends are back. Number 1, majority shareholder, Vanguard Group. Number 2, BlackRock. And number 4, the one that we learned about in that OceanGate one, the State Street Corporation, who is the number 1 shareholder of the Ukraine rebuilding bank startup program.
So, you see, not only do you see who's backing this company up, but they're the only company there. Mm-hmm. There is no, and you look at it, I mean, especially here in Florida, who do you have? Duke, and some people have Tico.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Everyone else is like little subcontractors, but those are your 2 guys. And then, Duke is your main one because they own more areas, because they also have other states. But
right.
That's neither here or there. So, it was initially just one power line, but allegedly what started out as one turned out to be 40.
And some of the images that I did see of them reporting of the down power lines, those trees did not look like they had a 10-foot minimum. They were towering over them, almost as if they just decided to neglect them with a hurricane maybe coming around. I don't know.
So let's just forget the trees for a moment.
Right.
So
they're all gone anyway.
So from my understanding of research that I did, right, if a power line falls and especially starts a fire, because it was being reported, like people reported it quick,
Does it make a sound?
They are supposed to shut off the power.
That too, yeah.
They never did. So, and that was just off of one. And then when, let's just say if the story is true, because I don't know at this point, which is sad that I don't know.
Just one theory.
I don't know what to believe. But if then 40 more fell and they still didn't turn off the power, okay, that's a problem.
A little bit of a chain reaction, it sounds like.
That's a problem. Okay. So you have that going on. Mm-hmm. Then there's an alarm system, right, that's in place for emergencies. The alarm was never set off.
I saw a video from one of the local residents that was saying there's supposed to be almost like an air raid siren kind of emergency thing.
Right.
Never happened.
And the head guy for that was on the podium taking questions, and I forgot his name. He's such a piece of shit. I didn't even bother writing his name. That I just did not care.
Is it Scott Sue?
I don't fucking know. But he pretty much made the argument that he didn't set the alarm. He did not want the alarm to go off because he proclaims that the people know that an event, because he claims that the alarms are strictly for tsunamis and that they need to get to high ground. And if he set the alarms, the people were just going to go into the fire. Now, Tulsi Gabbard, who's big and, was a representative for Hawaii, I've heard her speak, and she said that's complete bullshit. Oh. That they are supposed to go off during any disaster,
kind of
any disaster,
right. Volcano,
and the people,
hurricane,
you have
tsunami,
to give people a
fire.
chance, right?
Right.
If you could see, let's for a second buy into that theory of, okay, you didn't want to set the alarm off because you felt people were going to go into the fire, right? Well, if it's depending on where the fire was or whatever, don't you think at a distance people would see it, right?
Yeah, eventually they're going to be
but you're not
what's
giving,
that smell?
You're not giving people a chance. How many people were maybe sleeping, maybe whatever, trapped? didn't have it. You didn't give them a chance. That's like a tornado, right? How many alarms do you hear of tornadoes? You give that people
and that's even fewer notice. You can't
minutes.
Or maybe about the same amount of notice of a sparked fire in windy weather.
Right. The reason you have these warning systems in place is it's not guaranteed to be to get you out of safety. It's just to give you a chance, man.
Something's going on.
That's all it is. Yeah. And first of all, this guy should be in jail. He's not. He apparently resigned because he got sick.
COVID.
That's a whole nother subject because that's starting out. But
look, I saw a lot of video footage, which is also strange, from people that are on the ground there, people that live there, and footage of families and everybody just running into the water while their homes burn. They were reporting around 100, or a little over 100 dead at this point.
We're at 114 right now.
But apparently there's maybe thousands potentially missing at the same time. Other things that I've seen as well, and like I said, I don't know if any of these are true. I don't know what to believe anymore, is that there are some people whose homes were untouched. I did see a clip, and it wasn't, anywhere that was enormous, a bunch of acres or anything. It was one house, and it had a red metal roof. And they're saying that the metal roof and the fact that there was a lack of vegetation around the property probably spared it from oncoming fire. It didn't catch or whatever. But it was, but they're being given eviction notices, even though their homes are fine. Why do they have to go? It's weird.
Right. Let me, because I want to dig into this.
Right, there's a land grab conspiracy.
But before we get into the land grab, though, I just want to ask a couple questions.
Okay.
One, do you find it weird to have a fire this big on an island when you're surrounded by water?
Well, there's also volcanoes and stuff.
But that's different. That's a volcano.
I know that's a volcano.
This is a fire. You're surrounded by water. You let it go on for hours. Now, because I asked him...
What am I going to do? Get a pail from the ocean and just keep throwing it on?
No, I'm not saying you specifically, but I'm saying fire department, something, right? Like, you are surrounded by fucking water, right? Like,
get a chopper up with a big bucket, dump it.
Oh, I'm glad that you said chopper, because they actually claimed that they couldn't put out the fires because of the high winds. They couldn't send
the helicopter up because it would
you know how they do it in California.
There's always a reason.
Well, you know how they do it in California, right? Yeah. So
it's cool, man. They dump all that.
Looks like dust. So, yeah.
It's so weird. Agent Orange.
So, and we're going to get into the property thing, but I just really wanted to bring this up was, I work with a military guy that you also know of, okay, and I try not to go too deep into him because I do want him on the podcast. So I try to go
as deep into him as I possibly can.
I know you do. So, but I tried to just have vague things. But I wanted to ask him specifically so I could bring this up.
Okay.
I go. I'm hearing that they couldn't send any choppers, planes, anything like that to put out the fires because of the dangerous high winds. Okay. And he said, now these are his words, military background. I want to make this clear.
Okay.
He said that that's bullshit. There is plenty of military bases around. They have military-grade planes and choppers that could easily withstand, because there was only like 100-mile-an-hour winds, maybe a little less. They have military-grade aircraft that they could easily have used, dispatch used, to put out the fires.
They have naval bases there too.
Yes.
Could the boats maybe help? They got like a fire hose on the boat. Shoot on the coastline.
I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. You are surrounded by fucking water, and you let that fucking burn. So let's go to the property thing, since you brought that up. I don't know about the. So what are you saying, that the red roof saved the building? Is that what we're saying?
Oh, they're saying because it was made of metal.
That
because it was made of metal. There's another conspiracy theory surrounding the color blue, though. Okay, because a lot of people think that...
What's blue? The building, the the grass? What's blue?
Well, apparently, there's been videos that have been, it's drone footage
Okay.
of everything burnt out like you were describing. I mean, it looks like Iraq. We
Yeah.
just rolled through and smashed stuff up. And as it's coming backwards, the trees are all burned, everything's done, and there's 4 blue umbrellas. Like it might have used to have been a hotel or resort of some kind. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But there's 4 blue umbrellas completely untouched. Don't know why. It's weird. Maybe you've seen this. They show all the burnout cars just blown out in the streets. It's panning back and forth. Now, mind you, it was disabled. It's not like the car was totally untouched. It was, but the color of the car was still there. The blue was still there. So this other conspiracy theory to just go ahead and throw the power line one out the window, people are coming up with, same one with the wildfires in Canada that started to billow the smoke towards New York and Boston, was that it was an energy weapon from outer space, that we have this technology, like the Death Star.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And that they're doing this to start sort of a fear of climate change. Like climate change is real.
They are
so
bringing
all these
it. That is
right.
That is
Because if you look into the Canadian wildfires as well, there's still like 10 to 15 people in each case that still for some reason got detained for arson and arrested for arson from park rangers and other officials. Apparently some things in Europe, something happened in France, something similar, with a similar story. But why people think it's an energy weapon, apparently, is because I saw a couple of videos on it, and it's got all these pieces of cloth, kind of like these leis, right? And it got them laid out in little squares, and it's got a laser beam going across them, and it is just singeing and, you know, shredding it apart and burning up all the fibers, and then it goes across the blue one, totally untouched. Now, blue is also known to be a very cool color in that sense. You know, red's a hot color, blue's a cold color, kind of thing. So people think that anything that was blue was spared in these fires. And then I saw these links to a conspiracy of all these Hollywood elites and other big-name people whose homes miraculously have been untouched. All the acres of their property somehow not affected by these fires at all. Apparently back in 2018, were painting or putting a coat of some kind of bluish thing. It could be photoshopped. Who knows?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because people raise that question. All of these famous people on this island, all having a lot of homes and vast areas of properties, totally unaffected by this. Every single. Now I've heard too was Mick Fleetwood from Fleetwood Mac lost a restaurant, but his house was fine, kind of thing. Okay, but I wouldn't sit there and say Mick Fleetwood's part of the Hollywood elitist group, if I could put it that way. I don't know. Space lasers, down power lines. The same people were saved, regardless of what started it.
You know how I feel about this situation, this Maui fire right now, is how I feel about 9/11. Okay. How it initially started, when 9/11 happened, right? We will never forget how I felt. Very upset. Like it was devastating, right? And that's how I feel about this Maui situation. Then, after years and years and years, stuff trickling out of 9/11 things make you go, maybe, there was obviously some things that we were being lied to. There was obviously some things that we could have done better to prevent those things, right? Okay. So now we're 15 days into this, right? And it's crazy that it's tragic enough how many people have lost their life, lost their property, their loved ones, everything. And
even if they didn't, they're being told to leave.
And we don't believe that it was just power lines because I'm not an expert. How many hurricanes do we have here in Florida? How many, not even hurricanes, just horrible thunderstorms. How many power lines go down? Transformers explode. I don't see fucking big wildfires like that.
On a windy night, too. Yeah, good.
I just don't.
We've got palm trees and shit here, too, right?
And
Actually, more vegetation.
And why I lean to some of these conspiracy theories is because they have locked down Maui. There is no local news reporting it. They're not letting reporters in there. CNN
no freedom of the press.
Apparently, CNN's the only one that's allowed to
be around in
the area.
You're the only one, like.
And because the only actual footage you're seeing, is from the residents.
That's a lot of what I'm seeing.
Okay. And then and listen, when we talk about important topics like this, I really do try to be fair. I give the other side, give some time to see what are they saying, right? So you go to the CNN, MSNBC, all that stuff. They'll touch on it a little bit. They'll stick to the original story. Then global warming, well, because it was so hot, this is what.
We should be having that here in Florida then.
And then they're quickly, and now, days later, they'll touch it a little bit, but now we're all infatuated with Trump indictment, whatever.
All right, he's going to be with the mugshot, dude. I want to get a graphic tee of that mugshot.
But then you get on the Fox News sides, the Blaze TV sides, and all this other stuff, and the stuff that they're reporting is kind of like stuff that we're doing research on, and it's like, it's a full 360 spin, right? And then I'm like, my head's exploding because part of me is very infurious. Right. I am so pissed off. I know. No, it's not a pun.
I'm making up a dictionary
I am so frustrated of what how we're treating, like how our country is handling this, right? And you have to take everything with a grain of salt now. Like even Fox News or whatever, because they point out some of the stuff that you are. And, piggybacking on the whole, the elites of their houses and stuff. I mean, there was an aerial footage. Someone that, I don't know if they were in a private plane or whatever, but they took an aerial view. And you see it's a perfect setup. They have a perfect outline of what's on fire, and every celebrity houses, and surprisingly the big fancy resorts too, are untouched.
Totally fine.
I don't want to dismiss this tragedy, but when you have the Hawaii government shutting shit down, and we can't get a grasp on things. We don't know the missing people. We're fudging on the numbers of the death counts and stuff. There's so much uncertainty. Then you look at who's in charge of the shit, right?
I've heard the mayor's been mishandling this whole thing.
The mayor, there was a guy, I just looked him up too. His name is Nick Sordo.
Okay.
He's an independent journalist. If you follow him, I think on Twitter, or on X. I'm still calling it Twitter. I don't give a fuck. Which I have to praise Elon Musk later. But he goes to the mayor of Maui or Hawaii. I think it's just Maui. And he's asking him about the missing children, the deaths, and everything. He is not answering nothing.
And then he ended the interview immediately after. He's like, we can be done right now. That's it. We're done.
There is there's no compassion.
Not even a statement of just like...
Nothing. And then I just want to raise this, and I'm sorry because I'm going on a thing, but then I'll let you go. I just want to bring this up too. The police chief.
Okay.
His name's John Pelitier. I'm going to fuck up his name.
It's all good.
Pelitier. I could be wrong, whatever.
He's a pell eater.
Whatever. Ironically, he's the same police chief that was involved in the Vegas shooting.
What? I did not know.
That Vegas shooting that we don't know who did it, how it happened, anything. No, this is for real. The 91 people that died in Las Vegas.
Right.
He got let go, and now he's the police chief in Maui. Isn't that bizarre. A fucking record right there? Isn't that a fucking record?
You remember all the conspiracy surrounding that incident?
And not only is he the police chief, he's also running the show on the morgues too. He's in charge of that.
Oh.
How they take care of the, the morgues and
Right.
stuff, because there's only one morgue there. He runs that shit show. How to handle all that.
I'm sure they're full up by now. My goodness. That's pretty amazing. That is pretty amazing.
No, it's really not.
Right,
It's sickening. It really.
I don't believe in coincidence anymore, like officially. Like every now and then I'm like, oh, well. But now it's just kind of like, yeah, that makes sense. That fits. Checks out, as the kids say.
I think that we have it bad here. We're struggling and shit, but I mean, to be in their shoes, I couldn't imagine.
They don't even have shoes.
I really couldn't imagine, and I really do feel bad for those people, and if I had the financials too, I would help out. I truly would. I feel that strong about it, but there is so many questions, and I'm gonna be honest. Here's what I think could be true. I think the power lines could be true. I'm going to just be honest.
Could be, could
and
not
I would
be.
like to hear the other conspiracy theories, but I'm just...
Space laser was the other one.
I think we might have capabilities of something like that. I'm not going to rule it out. But I can believe that the power lines and that stuff could have started the fire. It could have been a natural disaster, a natural accident.
I don't think it was.
Hold on. It could have been. But how everything was handled after?
There's too much surrounding it that's too curious. We have to go into the people whose homes and properties were untouched. Now, I'm sure a lot of us have seen that, and I keep seeing this meme. It's got an image, and it's got 8 headshots. And you got Oprah up there, you got Bill Gates up there, you got Lady Gaga up there, you got Will Smith up there, and all these, notable people that are easily recognizable and, very famous and very wealthy. And then I see someone in there that I don't recognize, and it says Ellison. Well, who the hell is that? So I start looking up people. His name is Larry Ellison. Never heard of him. So what's this guy so special that he's a part of this? Well, Larry Ellison owns, and I'm going to mispronounce, I'm sure, a lot of these locations as we go through this.
We're not
so
professionals,
just bear with
so
me
it's okay.
here. Owns 98% of Lanai, which is a small island in Maui County, right next to Lahaina, where the majority of the fires were starting. He is the co-founder of Oracle Corporation, which was founded in the late 70s. What is that? Because I've never heard of that either. Oracle's the 3rd largest software company in the world by revenue and market capitalization. On August 23rd, 2022, 1 year ago, they were being hit with a class action lawsuit alleging that they engaged in deliberate and purposeful surveillance of the general population, specifically focusing on Oracle operating a machine that tracks real-time and records indefinitely the personal information of hundreds of millions of people. I found an article from Tech News by a writer named Matt Novak. This was published September 19th, 2014. The article states, yesterday Vox somehow managed to write an entire article about the history of Oracle and its founder, Larry Ellison, without mentioning the CIA even once, which is pretty astounding given the fact that Oracle takes its name from a 1977 CIA project code name, and that the CIA was Oracle's first customer. Now, you brought up 9/11 kind of based on like the overall impact, and it's interesting that you bring that up because this guy used 9/11 as a way to sort of perpetuate his agenda. This was published, this was a quote from Ellison in the New York Times, January of 2002. So 5 months after 9/11. He is quoted as saying, the single greatest step we Americans could take to make life tougher for terrorists would be to ensure that all the information in myriad government databases was copied into a single, comprehensive national security database. He goes on to say, creating such a database is technically simple. All we have to do is gather and copy information from the hundreds of separate law enforcement databases into a single database. I wonder who's going to run that. A national security database could be built in a few months, Ellison explained. That database combined with biometrics, i.e. thumbprints, handprints, iris scans, or whatever is best, can be used to detect people with false identities. Which then makes me think, I wonder if the people that are now using their palm to scan for their groceries, maybe he has something to do with that technology. I couldn't find anything on that. I was trying to tie something together. But that's a little odd, too, because a lot of his properties were untouched.
So then let me ask you this then.
And he wants to have basically one giant database of all info. And they were already involved in a class action suit about using that stuff to basically monitor and record people
Yeah.
without them knowing.
I mean,
like doing it illegally already.
Yeah.
Like we're doing a test run because this is going to happen.
Yeah.
So who knows if this is a piece of the puzzle? I don't know. Bill Gates is on that island. Maybe they have a place that they're starting up this new national security database.
Okay.
Get rid of all the locals, buy up the land. Potentially, I'm just saying,
okay. So that's what I was gonna. This is what I was gonna ask you. So
he already owns an entire island, basically just south of Lahaina.
So what would be okay? We're gonna do
Or
conspiracy.
east of
We're
it.
gonna do conspiracy.
West.
Okay. However they decide. What would be the motive for whoever? What would be the motive to pick Maui and this location? If this was done on purpose, and again, this is just a conspiracy theory. I'm not,
Right. Why is the land so valuable, kind of thing?
Why in your what you've gathered, or in your opinion, why would this be a hot spot? Why this location?
Why that location? And this is going to be, of course, a lot of people, some QAnon conspiracy, but, here we go. I think that they're kind of making their own, it's probably already used for it in some way, but human trafficking, hub, if you want to call it that. I mean, I didn't see Sound of Freedom yet. I'm sure I will eventually. But all the conspiracies surrounding that, them saying, there's more than one Epstein Island, which, of course, in the back of our minds, we all kind of figured we knew, like, oh, I'm sure that's the only one out there. He's the only rich guy that has a private place. Like, now you have a group of these people, and who knows? Maybe I should look up if these people have ever been on his flight manifest. Release the client list. And maybe somehow that this is now becoming a conglomerate of elites, and they're going to get their own big private chain of islands. I don't know. That's a thought. It's plausible. Everything seems plausible, yet still kind of, really? I have no evidence or proof. I just have speculation and opinion.
Well, I can feed into that because what's disgusting to me is that days after this happened, you have realtors and companies wanting to buy these people's property. Okay? Which is fucking crazy.
Right. Now that your shit's worthless, why don't you sell it to us?
Because when we saw Fort Myers get torn the fuck up from the hurricane last year, right? I didn't hear anything on the news. Big realtor companies wanting to come in and buy their property.
Well, I mean, BlackRock.
I could be wrong.
We talked about BlackRock when what was it? When they were trying to. We did an episode on Joe Rogan being potentially pulled from Spotify, and somehow that conversation got my tinfoil hat buzzing, and I started to discuss. That was like the first moment I discovered BlackRock, and that they were buying up properties across the entire country, neighborhoods. And that they're involved somehow here. This guy's involved with the CIA, his company. It's just weird.
Jeff Bezos is there too. Let's not forget that.
It's bizarre.
So I could play with that theory because there is still anywhere from 500 to 800 children missing.
And they didn't want to answer questions about when they asked about children specifically.
Right.
The press conference was
immediately
ended.
That's from, and I'll put their links in the description. That's from a video I sent you from Salty Cracker, and then also Pete No, Ben Patrick David, PBD podcast. I always mess up his name. He was just on Rogan not too long ago, but
Okay.
he did a full. Him and his guys did a breakdown on this too. So when you have this many people missing, right? And I don't know if you heard or noticed it, but there seemed to be lackadaisical on search and recovery. Okay, so FEMA's down there, right?
Mm-hmm.
FEMA's down there, but they need a, they got to have a place to rest, when they're, but normally you would think they would be in tents or maybe just cheap hotels, whatever. Yeah, they're on a top tier resort that's $1,000 a day. All the FEMA members are in there.
Very cushy.
While
I wonder if it's catered.
While people's houses are burnt on the ground and living off their cars, their street, whatever the fuck.
Living on the beach.
And and we're still at 114, right? It's been a couple days now. They're very weary on how many people are missing,
Right.
how many have like, when all this shit just every day there's something new, and then like I said, the FEMA's coming in and you're hooking them up in the bed, like
how you said about not being able to account for all the people is kind of interesting too, because if all these realtors and investment people rolled in and wanted to purchase those properties, I'm sure that they had all the information about those properties and who owns it.
It's a small
You know what I mean?
city.
So everybody already has that information, and then the ones that are totally fine and now allegedly are being told that they're being evicted, even though the building's fine. Guess what? Your name's on that info. I'm pretty sure too.
Yeah. Well, because I think they said, and I'm going to fudge up the numbers, but there was the government owns like over 30,000 acres. A company owns a lot of other acres.
Maybe it's Oracle.
I no,
I don't know.
it's Lud. I should have wrote it down, but I didn't. So
That's okay.
I apologize for that.
There's so much.
But
yeah.
they don't own. They really don't own the acres there. So again, it's like I don't want to believe that this was an intentional thing. I really don't.
I think it
But
was.
instantly, when you have companies wanting to buy these people's properties, when the urgency of search and recovery is just stagnant, you have, people passing the buck to others and no one's taking blame. The mayor isn't. I mean, really, the only person that's really speaking up about anything is Tulsi Gabbard, and she's not even in office. She's the only one. And I'm
That and
gonna
a
be
lot
fair.
of different,
And I'm not a big
content creators
right,
out there
but
are
I'm
also
not
spreading the
and
word.
I'm not a big fan of hers. I'm just not. But she's the only one that's not only upset and pissed off, but that's even raising concerns, giving people insight of how things are done there. It's a small community. It's a small city, right? It's not a heavy population, right? So they have the numbers. They do have the numbers. They know how many people are there. I think there was only one major school there. And we have a lot of kids missing. It's really, it pisses me the fuck off. It really does. And towards the end, I will rip into someone's ass towards the end.
It's coming.
So stay tuned. But what, I don't know what, okay, so you purchased, let's go with the idea that you're BlackRock, let's just say, and you're purchasing the land. You want the acre, whatever. What are we doing with it?
I don't know.
It
could be anything. Like I said, it could be this database. It could be an Epstein 2.0 island.
Are we building?
I don't know.
Are we building more big ass mansions?
Are we building more energy weapons to shoot? I don't know. Are we going to make it, maybe an industrialized government military hub that's also, a kitty diddling island for rich people, and we shoot everybody else away? It's the closest. I mean, next to Alaska, Alaska is basically, like that beautiful painting, touching Russia like that. But, you get another area closer, a little foothold in the Pacific. I don't know.
Let me ask you a question.
China and Russia and the BRICS is getting larger. They've just added 6 more countries to that list, all major oil producers.
Let me ask you a question, okay? So Maui is very democratic,
Okay.
Especially that area, very democratic.
I did not know
okay,
that.
everyone's Democrat in there.
Okay.
Okay. We saw with Palestine, Ohio. Okay, that city that the train, which we stopped talking about it. That was a Republican city.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's just say the theory that you just said, right? Let's just say, for argument's sake, that that's the goal that they wanted, right? Why wouldn't you attack more Republican cities? Like, why not Florida or a part of Florida?
Because you need to get everybody riled up. You need to get everybody turned on in a different way. And arguing with each other. Not to mention all the speculation and conspiracy just surrounding the topics that we're discussing. But even this, if we're going back and forth like that, now everybody is in a state of suffering. Whether you're red, whether you're blue, whether whoever you voted for, doesn't really matter because they already chose it anyway. And so everybody at the same time feels like they have an axe to grind. And everybody still somehow is thinking our guy is going to be the one, we're going to get him next time, and we're going to continue this political process. Not to mention the news outlets that you discussed earlier. If CNN's the only one that's allowed in there, that's a little weird. And if Fox News is reporting quote-unquote QAnon conspiracies, well, my whole thing with the news media is they know how we think about each other, right? So people that say that I watched this on Fox News and they want to talk to their lefty friend about it, or somebody that has more liberal ideologies, let's say, and just proposing something, you're automatically a QAnon conspiracy theorist. And Fox News knows this, so they're going to try and pump weird theories into people to make you sound like you're fucking out of your mind, even if you are. You could be telling the truth. It could be.
Well, Fox News, in their defense, so they only named off of like the companies that you named. Whether it's a conspiracy, I mean, it's
right.
I don't know if that's a
I
conspiracy.
look like a reliable news source to you? No.
Well, they didn't get it from you. They didn't watch the show and get it. I mean, they reported
I know they didn't get it from me. I'm just talking in general to the folks out there. I mean,
right. Well, that's why I said you have to take if you're right, you have to take that news with a grain of salt, because they have an audience to feed into as well.
Take the news with a grain of salt, then go out and try and piece things together, i.e. follow the money. That's what I've done. So when you tie it all together like that, it kind of makes sense. How it started all of a sudden seems to melt away of how that matters. Because when you see how it's developing and what the end game might potentially be, we're going to see that unfold, I'm sure. And then we're going to look back like we have countless times in the last 10, 15 years and go, yep, I knew it. I saw a clip of some old guy that was talking about in the 60s. He's like, in the 60s, they said we were going to run out of oil in 10 years. In the 70s, they said, nuclear war was going to destroy the world in 10 years. Then the 80s, it was acid rain. Then the 90s, the ozone layer. We're not going to have the ozone layer. That's going to destroy the world. And then in the 2000s, like the ocean levels are going to rise in the next 10 years. There won't be an eastern seaboard.
Oh, then in Florida was going to be underwater.
Right. Then in the 2010s, yeah. Then now it's just it's a new thing every single time, and this might tie into the whole climate change agenda conspiracy surrounding this. When we look at another notable elitist on this island, Oprah. Fuck.
I heard a lot of stories about her lately.
Weird. In recent years, Oprah has purchased over a few thousand acres of land, actually been a part-time resident of the island. Some notable properties: 2,000 acres of farmland off the side of Halakala, a dormant volcano at a height of 4,000 feet, which is the Haleakala volcano, not like Halakala, but it's a little different. Private ranch as well, the Ulupalakua Ranch. 870 acres of agricultural land spread across Kula and Hana, which is facing the western slopes of that volcano, all the way to Makawao. As for Maui, however, she bought the last bit of property for a whopping $6.6 million in February of this year, which added to the existing properties in Kula and Hana. All the properties, miraculously, during this event, untouched. A potential agenda of elitists for accumulating land by making people believe there's a climate emergency taking place. What's weird about this is this isn't the first time this has happened. Kind of, we could throw September 11th in it. The World Trade Center was attacked in '93. Similar thing. Arab terrorists, they tried to use bombs in the parking garage underneath to bring the tower down. It's almost like the practice run before we get it right this time. Canada was the practice run. I think we got it right this time. Not necessarily. Still some holes. Because similar events in 2017 with a fire, and you can all look this up, engulfing homes left and right of Oprah's Montecito mansion there. Her property was completely unscathed by the fire. Right after that, she must have just thought she's a real estate mogul, because right after that, she then went on a buying spree and expanded her land in Montecito to over 70 acres. So it's really weird, man. It's really weird, because a lot of her, she owns a lot of this area. And you want to talk about, like, some of the upper echelon of elitists, I would throw her name in there.
Oh, I heard her name's out there a lot.
What'd you hear?
Especially involved with the kids.
Okay, that's what I wanted to get at, too. Mm-hmm. What else have we heard about Oprah?
That's what I keep hearing. She's, and listen, throughout the, past 5-10 years, she's been pretty quiet, right? You don't really hear much of her. She'll do a couple of interviews here and there with, like, fucking Meghan Markle and the fucking, or whoever the fuck, but...
other elitists.
Right, but that's it. So it's like, what do you...
The Prince,
and she's got so much money. It is... The lack of attention, too. We're all wrapped up into this fucking Trump... the fucking Republican debate, like, who gives a fuck about that show? We don't give a fuck. No one raises questions that Democrats aren't raising debates. They're just chilling. And we're just so, like I said, we're just so involved with Trump. We're just easily forgetting this.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that was going on in the previous indictments, too, and this is another thing to throw right in there. While this story is starting to pick up steam, now we're throwing in the fact that he might, he's going to turn himself in and get arrested and then post bail and be right out. Okay. But it's a huge thing. Like, it's the TMZ, like, click, 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 and they know us at this point. Now, we're slowly waking up to it. And it's sad because they use the term woke, and that's gone by the wayside. Being awake and seeing what is around you is sitting down, sifting through all this jargon information, understanding it could potentially be this, it might not be. You formulate your own opinion instead of following everybody else or your side.
You know what else is sad, but also kind of like good in our aspect because we're in that realm, but you really can't get any good information, or you can only get good information now from podcasts.
Weirdly enough, yeah. Because we're not owned by anybody.
Right. But not just like, I'm not just saying
looking at you, BlackRock, you want to buy us out?
I'm not just saying us specifically, but like whether it's Rogan, PBD Podcast, Redacted Podcast, like what? That's just the name of it. Timcast. I mean, he's big on it. They're way more credible than any of these news organizations. Well, they just feel that way,
yeah, because they're just people speaking their mind.
Well, not just their mind, but they want the truth,
right?
And they just want and just like I have done many times, you call out these people and these fucking hypocrisies. They really do. I don't know what more you have.
Well, an interesting one about that was how you were, saying all these people wanted to come in and buy these people's places up, and where's the relief after there's a lack of that? Well, President Biden had decided to propose.
Thank God, I want
$700 per household.
$750.
Whatever it was. I mean, it's chump change. But then during that same week was trying to propose like another $13 billion to Congress for Ukraine or
More.
something like even more. Okay,
More.
whatever it was.
40 billion
Right.
fucking dollars.
They didn't do anything for Ohio. Those memes were floating around too. When that first started with the trains and they needed help and they're like, sorry, 20 billion to Ukraine, Jack. He's doing it still. And then the cheap shot of the insulting amount of $700 in this overinflated economy right now. Gas is almost $4 a gallon. Not that they have cars to drive because they're all burnt out, but like, what is $700 going to do? We got more than that for the pandemic. It's weird. And then he's falling asleep. He finally went there because for a while, what was it? They were trying to ask him about.
Did you hear his story on the podium?
Nope.
How he tried to compare. Did you hear?
He said he didn't want to compare.
No, he compared. Did you hear that
compare.
bullshit fucking story? Like, that he knew?
Jill and I know what it's
That
like
he
to
knew
lose
because
a home.
a fucking toaster caught on some fucking fire?
I guess a lightning strike and it came up through the air duct. I
No,
couldn't
it was
follow.
like some fucking toaster.
He's Grandpa Moses up there.
And
I
his
can't
fucking
follow.
Corvette almost
Right,
caught
almost
on fire.
lost my Corvette,
Let
man.
me tell you.
It's been rough for us.
Let me tell you. First of all,
That's white privilege.
he showed up on Monday. We're recording this as is Thursday.
Yeah.
He should have been there a week prior. Do you understand that? The lack of urgency is unbelievable. Then you offer $750 on top of how we've given $40 billion to Ukraine and we're still sending them money. That is like if you had a kid, but you're putting the fucking neighbor's kids in college and you don't do shit for your kid.
Right.
Do you understand that?
In my case, it's probably
Do you know
not
how fucking
paying
retarded
child support.
we look right now? Yes, I fucking said retarded. Do you know how retarded we look right now?
I know how it look. I look in the mirror every day. I know how.
This is a shit show. This is a fucking clown. I hope you're telling me right now that people who fucking voted for Biden, you're happy with this?
That's
You're
an interesting
happy
point,
with
too.
this right now.
Because they're not going to have Democratic debates. They've already said, this is our guy, we're going to put him forward.
Allegedly. They're putting in Newsom. I'm telling you right the fuck now.
Or if he doesn't die before then.
Or get COVID.
So you raise a good point. If you believe in the vote and you vote blue no matter who, Democrat, that whatever, your thing is, do you like this guy? Do you really? Be honest. Type it in the comments. How do you really feel about how he's handling a lot of these situations? And can you see somewhat how weird
What if Trump did that? What if Trump did that? How do you think people would react?
I don't know either, because the people that support Trump no matter what, he even said it himself that he could stand in the middle of 6th Avenue and shoot someone and they'd still vote for me. There are people out there like that too that wouldn't care.
I understand
that. Just wouldn't care if he just... I don't know if it'd be a huge portion because we didn't get to really see that.
This is a fucking disgrace.
I can agree with that.
$750 fucking dollars.
And he's falling asleep when he gets back in his chair.
And I'm glad. I'm glad the people in Maui flipped him the fuck off.
Oh, yeah, I saw that video too. Yeah.
He is a piece of shit. I'm sorry. He is.
He's just a bumbling, senile old man, and he's not. They just have him there. He doesn't know what's going on. He just knows he has to say something. I mean, even when he started with I don't want to compare, but Jill and I know what it's like to lose a home.
No, they don't.
And then he started going into his story. Because they had, I guess, some musicians that were there, some native people playing traditional Hawaiian music because they had the ukuleles going. The looks on these guys' faces, if you go back and watch that clip, they're just like, is he really about to right now? And then he went ahead and did it. The same, blubbering idiot when he came out after the Nashville shooting and is talking about chocolate chip ice cream and then comments on how good the young kids look in the audience and making jokes the whole time before he gets into it.
He didn't even show up to Palestine, Ohio. He didn't even go. He didn't even show up. You have all this fucking money. You are spewing out all this fucking money. And that's what you're fucking offering them? Really? Really? I gotta give him props. You have a lot of fucking balls. You do.
He doesn't know he does.
And he doesn't
That's the
even know
saddest
it.
part.
And I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't give a fuck how people take it. This is just how I feel. My opinion.
Okay.
I don't mind if you're a Democrat, whatever, libertarian. I don't really care. I as long as you have whatever you believe in is coming from you, right?
Right.
And if you are just repeating shit because you heard fucking Don Lemon say it or Fauci repeat it, if that's all you're basing your opinions on something, I really just stay away from it because like you don't have a mind.
I shared this earlier in the week to our Instagram story. Some of you might have seen it, where it's like the people that think that the government has their best interests at heart are probably the same people that think that the stripper actually likes them.
For people who have legit voted for Biden because they couldn't handle quote unquote Trump's mean tweets or whatever the fuck, let me tell you something. I don't want you fucking near me. I have no respect for you. If you really think that this guy was fucking better, I mean really.
I don't think that they thought he was
is
better. They just wanted to not have Trump.
This is insanity. I am pulling my hair out. This is Looney Tunes.
It is weird.
This is Looney Tunes. Because if any other fucking president would be in there, they'd be like, why aren't you in... The day after, why aren't you there?
Right.
Why aren't you there?
Even though I still think Bush was in on 9/11, he was at ground zero. Like that night or the very next day, and he was down in there. At least you made it look. And I could say that. I would say that about Obama.
Obama was there.
Right. Obama
Clinton was there.
Obama, at least, even though I think every single politician, whether they're left or right, Republican, Democrat, they're there for a reason. They're promoting what the powers that be want them to promote. They're just a figurehead. They don't do fucking shit. But at least when
Optics.
something horrible would happen, you're being spoken to in a way that is at least, it's like taking a pill, you know what I mean? I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, I know it was pulling the wool over a lot of our eyes, but then we got Trump, and it was like, wow. And now we got Biden, and we're like, oh, everybody's full of shit. Like, the last two have just been, seem to be just off the rails when they get on and just say all these things that, like, even when Trump was shooting, paper towels to the people in Puerto Rico like he was, Steph Curry sinking threes, just the buffoonery of the president, the last two that we've had, not talking about their performance, but just how they look as that political figurehead. Yeah. They both just look like a couple of morons. I mean, that debate of them just screaming over each other that time was perfect evidence of that. That they're just, it's bizarre. And the worst part is, for me, whether it started by down power lines, whether it started by space lasers, whether they're doing it to create their own Epstein government database, secret lab island, I don't really know. The worst part about all of this is, to me, besides the loss of life and these people's livelihoods and lives, is that even if I were told the truth, even if we were told the truth, would we believe it?
How they're acting right now? No.
I wouldn't.
I can't
right,
believe
that's
it.
what I mean. I probably, somewhere along the lines, maybe we are telling the story, and that's what actually happened. But I don't even believe it. Do any of us at this point? I don't think we do. And on a mass scale, I feel like we all know that it's fabricated and it's nonsense, and they keep stuff from us and they shut things out. So all of us kind of know something's weird here.
How much corruption has been going on with this administration? I know every administration is corrupt, but I'm
now
saying
we really see it on front.
Full blown.
Right.
And you know what? Whether you like him or hate him, Trump really exposed what people felt like behind closed doors.
Right, Chappelle's bit where he someone from inside the house straight up came out here and said, we're doing everything you think we're doing in there, and then went back inside and started playing the game.
Validation.
Yeah.
Not only that, I don't care how much you hate him. You cannot tell me that we are in a better spot now with Joe Biden as president than fucking Trump. You can't argue that. Are you anywhere in the world, are you living a better fucking life right now? I guarantee you're not. Unless if you're an elitist.
Apparently,
right or wrong?
You're protected from wildfires as well. I hate that they keep calling it a wildfire.
It's not a wildfire.
Too. It's not wild. There's nothing wild about this.
And I got to give props to one elitist, okay? Because he has done more than your fucking president Joe Biden. Not yours specifically. I'm just saying.
No, I know.
Elon Musk has donated his Tesla power banks and his Starlink Wi-Fi, all of his equipment down there, so that people can have some power and internet.
Interesting.
That's Elon Musk.
Yeah, okay, that's
and
how
I'm
they're
going to be
posting all this
100%
shit.
honest. I do not 100% trust him.
He probably has space lasers.
I feel he plays both sides.
Right.
I know a lot of fucking Republicans think that Elon's on their side, and I don't. I'm a foot away, but I recognize if someone does well, right? Like I did with Taylor Swift or whatever,
Yeah,
okay?
that's true.
Even
though we're not into you.
I will give credit where it's due.
Yeah.
Elon Musk did that. And let me just remind you, until Joe Biden showed up to Maui, he didn't make no comments. He didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I did see that. He just said no comment and got into the car.
And after all of his fucking indictments and stuff, Trump still made comments only a couple days after this happened. Which you saw and you laughed, by the way, and stuff. But it just pisses me off that the American people accept this bullshit, and we're so distracted by. And again, it's just perfect timing, and Jesse Waters brought this up. Anytime there's something going on, they quickly go to a Trump indictment.
It is true. It's another distraction.
CNN is
they know they're going to do news
posted
on it.
outside of Georgia right now, but no one's at Maui.
Right.
No one could give a fuck about Maui. Which, by the way, if you want to donate, go to the GoFundMe pages. Do not trust Red Cross. Or any of them. FEMA.
It's a good thing you mentioned that, because to close us out, speaking of people trying to raise and donate for the cause, GoFundMe reportedly banned someone named Mariah Casillas, also known as Lava Girl. I guess she's like a social media influencer, for selling nudes for Maui fire relief efforts. However, Casillas moved her fundraiser to OnlyFans, according to TMZ. The model from Honolulu, Hawaii, reportedly collected $7,800 on GoFundMe before the website put a stop to her fundraiser, even though she claimed the nudes were never uploaded. Shut that shit down. You can't even. So if you're going to do that, go to OnlyFans, raise some money for the people in Hawaii.
There you go.
Shit. You know what this means?
We're going to do an OnlyFans.
Now I have to. Fuck.
I'm just saying, do not trust these fucking organizations. And let me just tell you this, man. And I hear people say this. 2024 is going to be a rough year. And I'm not dismissing those poor people in Maui. I'm not. But people better wake the fuck up. Shit's happening.
It's gonna get weirder.
Shit is happening, dude. And it's not good. This is embarrassing. We don't give a fuck about American. We don't care about our own people. It is
until
crazy.
It's happening to us. Then we care.
We care more.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up.
We care more about this bullshit war that no one gives a fuck about.
I'm on the social media. So anytime there's this huge, I remember even way back when trends were starting where like there was someone in like a truck that ran over huge crowds during a celebration in Paris. I mean, like 10 years ago or something. And everybody changed their profile picture. It allowed you to put a tint of the French flag over your profile picture. You know, standing prayers for this place, prayers for that place. When the Ukraine war started, everybody's profile picture had a little insignia. When COVID started, everybody...
New York Post still has a Ukraine flag on top of their paper.
There you go.
With the American, but still.
Right? When COVID started, at first it was the whole stay at home, save lives would be a little emblem in everybody's little corner. Then it was, I got my COVID shot, I'm doing my part. Nobody, I have seen fuck all. There's no Hawaiian flag profile pictures. Did the news not tell you to do that?
Nope.
I'm right.
Because we're gonna get fucking Trump's mugshot. That's what we're gonna get. We care.
That'll
more,
be everybody's
we
profile
care
picture.
more about that. It is a damn fucking shame. I am. My heart goes out to the people in Maui. Really, they do. And I am sorry. I am so sorry. You have this shit. This representation of your government, from your police chief to your mayor to your president. I am sorry. That's.
We'll see how
it's
this.
a fucking
We'll
shame.
see how this continues. Like I said earlier, whatever you believe, whether it's a conspiracy, whether it really happened, whether it's all coincidence, because there also was a church that was, untouched and everything around it had burned down too. It wasn't owned by anybody special. Everything could be coincidence. It could be not. Like I said earlier, even if they told us the truth, would you even believe it at this point?